everybody. I'm Eugene Driscoll. Welcome to Valley Navel Gazing on valleyindy.org, newhavenindependent.org, and if you're listening on the radio, WNHH 103.5 LPFM, New Haven's community radio station. I'm joined by my regular co-host, Valley Indy reporter Ethan Fry.
G'day.
And we're recording this, what's today, December 21st?
The 21st, yes.
Right, and we'll probably actually post this one quickly.
St. Swithin's Day. I just made that up. Simpsons reference. But, you know.
And we'll probably be posting this one. See, as good Commissioner Kelleher, we can edit this. So that's a part that'll be edited.
Mike is good enough. Mike is fine.
Well, I want to formally introduce our guest this week. It's Derby Fire Commissioner Michael Kelleher. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on.
No problem. And the reason, you do a lot in Derby. The fire department in general does a lot in Derby. And you've sent me a bunch of press releases for things that you've done that I have not been able to cover, and it's been eating away at me. Because you're like a guy I met. You're a person. Your reputation precedes you in a good way in the city of Derby. So I never want to say I can't do that. I always want to see if I can. I'll show up and then I can't, and something goes wrong. So I just want to apologize.
Oh, that's fine. That's fine. No apologies necessary.
But I thought a great way to spread news now in 2016 is through podcasts like this, where we can have a discussion about all these things that the Derby Fire Department is up to, aside from the obvious fighting fires, which happens quite often in Derby. Derby and Ansonia are much busier than places I worked previously in terms of fires, I guess, because you get the old factories, you've got the old housing, and there's always something going on. So, but then there's a whole other side to at least the Derby Fire Department that Commissioner Kelleher is involved with. Like, what do you have coming up? We're recording this on December 21st, but you have an event coming up. You have two things coming up. You're going to be a Christmas-related event. Tell us about it.
Well, we're going to be delivering meals on Christmas Eve around noontime. We're cooking them. My wife is actually cooking them at our house. Food being donated by the firemen, and the trucks will come by, pick up the food, and bring them to about 45 or 47 homes in Derby, mostly seniors who don't have anybody to spare Christmas with. And we cook the meal up, give them as dessert, and we bring them right to their house. Very, very similar to what we did on Thanksgiving along with the Shelton Fire Department.
And how did this come about? How long have you been cooking meals on Christmas Eve?
This will be our second year for both events, Thanksgiving and Christmas. I had the idea a year ago, around September, and I ran it by one of the firefighters, and next thing you know, you give them an idea and they run with it, and it runs like clockwork. It really does. Yeah,
and as we record this, we just had Popcorn Ball Sunday, this past Sunday, which was just a great event. I mean, I had so much fun. Like, my kids,
Talk about a Valley-specific tradition,
right?
Too. Like, I mean, to my knowledge, I've never seen that anywhere else.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't grow up with anything even remotely like that. So that's another way, like the fire department.
And when I first moved here, it's like, okay, like it was just like a thing. But you like put like basically like a photo gallery together based on like Facebook shares this year. And I was shocked by like how much that was shared and commented on and liked and everything, because like it shows that like the community really does appreciate it.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I love about 2016 journalism with social media. It gets a bad rap, but it also, a lot of times readers are our editors, and something we might have ignored or not as covered or not provided a list of when it's happening, like Popcorn Ball Sunday. People are rabid for it. But I have a 6-year-old and a 3-year-old, and it's now our tradition.
You knew. Yeah.
They ask about it. You know what I mean? Like, Popcorn Ball Sunday is a big deal, and it was just, and this is totally volunteer. These are firefighters, volunteer firefighters, giving away their Sunday to do this, and so it's just awesome. But I got it. What's your wife's name?
Maureen.
How did Maureen get roped into cooking all these meals?
She was. We've been married 38 years, 39 years this coming May, I should say, and she has been very supportive of my time in the fire service. I've had about 45 total years in the fire department in Derby. And she's like the fireman. I mean, you have an idea, and next thing, well, I'll cook the meal here, I'll cook the ham here, and she makes the menu up, and she coordinates getting the food, and she really does support me 100% on this thing. And I couldn't have had a better choice than her, I'll tell you.
Yeah, how many hours does this take? You said 45 meals, I think you said? 45 people? Or
we get names from Derby Housing Authority. from the units they have in town, from Laurel Wabno, it was a big help.
Sure.
And a team, Susan Riley supplies us with names. Thanksgiving, we also coordinate with Shelton, and we deliver meals to Shelton, which are Shelton fire companies. And now for Christmas Eve, though, we just do Derby. And we do it early, to 12 o'clock, because everybody has to go someplace on Christmas Eve. And I don't want to have the fellas and the ladies at the fire department held up all afternoon doing this. So we tried the meals cook in the morning. It's at our house this time because we didn't want to use the other firehouse in town. We cook the meals at our house, and the trucks come by, they pick them up, they have their assigned areas where to go. They go to their addresses, and hopefully they'll be done by 1:30, 2 o'clock, and they go on to Christmas Eve.
You know, the Valley Community Foundation a couple of months ago released a report, there's all kinds of data on the Valley, and one of the striking things that comes out of this report is how the Valley's population, and Derby especially, is baby boomers are hitting retirement age, and then Derby has super seniors, seniors who are 80 years old. And Susan Riley, actually, the team had talked about how there's a lot of people you might not know who are living alone, who are upward, or there's seniors taking care of seniors in a lot of cases in Derby, and all the things we have to do and challenges we face as a community going forward to help people, the advanced seniors and the super seniors. What's the reaction like? And were you surprised that there were that many people, that there are that many people alone on Christmas?
Well, my two grandmothers lived to be very elderly, and they both lived, actually one lived at home, but the other one lived at Cece Manor. So I knew there was a lot of people that lived alone, and I didn't know how many, quite frankly, till we actually asked. And it could be some young people that live alone too, or people that are invalid or handicapped, that we'd also supply meals for. And I knew that team and the housing authority would have a pretty good handle on that. And quite frankly, if there's more, we could cook more. I mean, we do. The fellows donate the food, time, and whatever needs to be done, we will do, and we'll get them all the meals.
And then you have another event coming up. Not to switch gears so quickly. You said a lot of information there. Your grandparents lived into their 90s.
Both grandmothers into their 90s, yes.
And then your mom is currently, how old? Your mom is celebrating a birthday tomorrow?
She'll be 89 tomorrow, December 22nd, yes. And my father will be 90 in July 24th.
And you were telling me sort of a fascinating story before we went on mic. They're Second Ward residents, lifelong. This is interesting. How did they? But they've moved a little. They've moved somewhat.
My mother lived at 125 Hawthorne Avenue, and now they live at 9 North Avenue. And she moved like 4 houses away. And my father was born on the corner of 7th and Hawthorne Avenue, and now he lives, of course, on 9 North Avenue. And kidding around, I tried to ask the Department of Interior to declare it a historical site, but they wouldn't do it.
They should. I'm on 246. We need all the help we can get. I'm up the road from them a little bit. So where did you grow up in Derby?
I grew up on Hawthorne Avenue, actually, on the corner of right near the corner of Coon Hollow Road and Hawthorne Avenue. And then when I was 8 or 9, we moved down. My father and my grandfather, who was the chief of police in Derby.
What was your grandfather's name?
Ivan Cable.
Okay.
That was my mother's maiden name. They together, my father and him, built our house on 9 North Avenue, and that's where I grew up.
So what was it like growing up in Hawthorne Avenue on those days? Those days?
I mean, it was obviously a different time. It was, you walk. I walked to high school. I walked to high school. As a matter of fact, I was one of the few kids that didn't want a license. I could walk to the high school, and I worked at the grocery store around the corner.
Where was the grocery store?
On Cherry Street. It was called Frank and Bill's Market.
Okay.
It's on Cherry Street. I worked there in high school, a couple summers there, and when I got a job at the hospital initially, Griffin Hospital, in the kitchen, I was going to walk to the kitchen. I didn't want a license, but I ended up getting a license, but it was great. Everybody knew everybody. It was. I don't know if you ever locked your door or not. You probably didn't have to because you knew all your friends, all your neighbors had kids, and you all played ball up the park, or you walk up to Ryan Field and play ball or football or whatever, and it was very nice.
And did you have brothers, sisters? How many siblings?
I have a sister who's retiring. Matter of fact, she's retiring on January 6th. And my brother, I had a brother who died about 23 years ago. He was killed in a car accident.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
He was only 29 years old.
And your sister, you said she's retiring. Where does she work?
She works in a town clerk's office in Derby.
Oh, no kidding. Okay.
And she's retiring January 6th, I believe.
Wow, congratulations.
Yeah, she's really looking forward to it.
And then what type of work did your mother and father do growing up in Derby?
My father graduated high school in 1946. I was just mentioning how he had a class reunion just last weekend, the 70th class reunion.
Oh, right at the new restaurant in Ansonia.
Right
You were
down
saying
here.
what, Lulu. What's it called, Ethan?
Lulu Pazzo.
There you go. A plug for the new restaurant.
I graduated high school on a Friday and started with the gas company in Derby on a Monday.
Wow.
And he was there for about 42 years.
Okay.
Ironically, I also had 42 years at UI. We both had the same amount of time.
Oh, no kidding. And then your dad was involved in public service, so you witnessed that as a kid. What was that like? Because he was always involved locally.
He was a part-time police officer, and then he was on the Board of Education for a while. And then he got on the Board of Aldermen. He was elected to the Board of Aldermen numerous times. And he was also Democratic town chairman. And that's how I got involved in politics. I guess they were looking for somebody after we had married, my wife and I got married, we had moved to Shelton for about a year and a half. But I wanted to move back to Derby. And actually, I wanted to live on the west side of Derby.
Yeah, there we go.
My wife's from Beacon Falls. And I said, let's find a house on the west side of Derby. I like the high school, I like the park, I like Osborne Dale, the library.
How'd you meet your wife, if I may ask?
I met her before I got hired at UI. I met her, she was summer help at a factory in Beacon Falls where I worked. She was on her way to college, and she worked in the summertime. That's how I met her. But we both worked in New Haven.
Okay.
So we lived over by Riverview Park in Shelton in an apartment. And it took us longer to go from Sodom Lane and 34 to Shelton than to get out in Haven to get to that point. So my wife said, if we're going to work in New Haven, we're going to live on the east side of Derby. It's closer to the Haven. We're going to get through all those traffic lights in downtown Derby just to get home. So that's why we bought a house on Bellevue Drive.
Nice. Okay. And then you were saying that, you know what? I just lost my train of thought. What were we talking about before that? We went into that. We talked about what your dad did and and what your mom did.
So I'm living in Bellevue Drive, and everything is going well. And my father needed a candidate for alderman in the 3rd Ward, which is the east side of Derby, I'm sorry. And so my mother says, well, what about Mike? So he called me up, and I had no interest in politics at that point. He said, well, come on, we need somebody we need 9 people to run on the Board of Aldermen. And I said, I got elected. Who would have known? Who would have guessed it? And I actually served with my father.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
so, because my father is still the chief of police in the town I grew up in Somers, New York. And so my view of, police sometimes have a certain view of, politicians are like, it's just a politician. It's like a verb. It's like a curse word in some respects. Not with everybody, but, I'm stereotyping. But in general, what was your view? How did you view politics growing up since your father was so civically involved?
Well, I know he went to meetings for the Board of Ed, but I never had much interest in it, to tell you the truth. I was more interested got into high school, Vietnam.
Okay,
that was the big topic of the day. And I actually, much to his shock, when I first became 18 years old, I went down to register to vote. And there was 2 tables. There was a Democratic table and a Republican table in the old City Hall. And a lovely lady named Mary Crowley was the Republican registrar voter. She ran for mayor a few times. So I walked right over to the Republican table and signed up because Richard Nixon was talking about peace, and that's what I wanted to vote for.
Aha, okay.
So I actually became a Republican for a while.
And what was your father's reaction to that? He
didn't, never mentioned it. He never said anything. No, it was fine,
And you said during the Vietnam era then, I'm 42, so I'm born in 74, so I missed all that, obviously. What was it like in that time period in Derby? Was it, could you it's almost, I wonder, is it like today where you can feel the divide in the country?
I don't think you felt it much in Derby. It was on the news all the time. You couldn't get away from it, obviously, but there were no protest rallies or nothing like that I can remember, but it was just the fact that there was a draft. And everybody was worried about, every year you would draft. Every year, I had some friends get drafted, and luckily I had a high number when mine came up, but that was a big concern about because obviously it wasn't going well. And finally we had talked about. I remember President Nixon had talked about going to Paris, and I think for over a year they fought over what size table they were going to use, whether they were a round one or a square one. But the point where there was movement there towards peace and. It was a long. Like I said, that's why I signed up to be Republican because it sounded good enough to me.
And what year did you graduate high school?
1971.
And then what did you do right after high school?
I had a job in the Griffin Hospital for about a year, and then I had a job in Beacon Falls at a factory for about a year, and then I finally got a job at United Illuminating.
And that was 42 years. You were.
Oh yeah, long time.
Wow.
Yeah.
What type of work did you do at UI?
Well, everybody starts off as a meter reader at that time. And then
Okay.
eventually, when I retired, I was what's called a substation electrician.
And what does that mean? Yeah, as I'm a moron. I can't change. I literally
Well,
can't change a light bulb. Look at this place.
The dam in Derby, you know the dam in
Yeah,
Derby?
sure.
The electrical building right next to it,
Okay.
all
yeah.
those wires. And I would work in places like that.
Oh,
That's
no
a
kidding.
substation. Yeah, I would work in there, all over UI territory, though.
So you can't be claustrophobic.
No, well, we worked outside, too, on the wires. 115,000 volts, 345,000 volts.
I'd last about 5 seconds doing that. Now, so when did you get involved in the Derby Fire Department? Were you already involved?
When I was still in high school. Yeah,
And why? Why did you get involved?
Well, a couple of my friends in high school belonged to the Hotchkiss Hoes. I met them in high school.
Who are those guys?
Was Bob Gavin, was Brian Capusta, and was another fellow named McMahon, Mr. McMahon, Brian McMahon, and they said, "Why don't you come on down and join the Hotchkiss Hoes? You know, we have a bunch of guys go to fire." So I did, and I loved it right away. They were on Caroline Street.
That's what I was going to ask. Yeah, so that's when it was on the other side of Derby there, or my side of Derby. So Hotchkiss Hoes, was there like, I've always heard, and maybe this predates your tenure in the fire department or your starting date, there was like a competition among the different. Like I've always heard, and I don't know if it's like the Polish guys were in one firehouse, the Irish guys were in another. Was there still some of that?
Oh yeah, there was. I guess you call them the Catholics were over to Storms. And
Okay, the
the Protestants belonged to the Hotchkiss. And
That's another take on it.
yeah,
Okay.
and the Pegassets, of course, had a big Polish group over at the Pegassets, and the East End they came in the 50s because there was no fire protection at that time on the east side of Derby, except for the Pegassets, which is right by the bridge.
That's interesting. Yeah, so the East End, the East End delivered. They did their Santa thing on
Yes.
Popcorn Ball Sunday. They came to my house. It
That's
was
the
really
one
awesome.
on the Derby
But-
Milford.
Yeah, they're like
okay.
the last property in
Yeah,
Derby
yeah,
almost going down on Derby Milford Road. But I noticed it was like, it said 1950 on there. I didn't realize they're like the new kids on the block.
I think it was I think it's 1956, I believe. I think it was then. Yeah, they built the building themselves. Actually, they weren't part of the fire department officially until 1976, when there was a vote to make them part of the city charter. They were helped by the city. So, they worked with the city, but they actually weren't listed in the city charter as a member of the Derby Fire Department.
So, and then in the fire department, what are some of the positions you've held? You're commissioner now, which I wanted to ask you
I
about.
was
What
a
are you?
lieutenant, firefighter lieutenant, and captain. I was never a chief. Now I'm the fire commissioner.
And then what made you want to be the fire commissioner, at least from what I've seen in Derby? And I'm sorry to skip around. It's a volunteer job.
I
is
do
there
get a
stipend?
salary.
Okay.
Oh, yes, I do get a stipend, yes.
Okay, there you go. Sorry. But it's a tough job because, your budget is your budget. What are the duties of the fire commissioner? Maybe that's a better way to start.
Well, the fire commissioner runs the fire department unless there's an actual fire. If there's a fire call, the fire chief is in charge. And that's the way it should be. I prepare the budgets, pay the bills, hand out discipline if necessary sometimes. And for the most part, sort of like the mayor, unless there's a fire. And, budgets are tough, but money's tight everywhere.
And the fire service gets more and more expensive just by mandates and training requirements.
Yes.
How tough is it now to...
Well, a lot of our things that we have to do are driven by OSHA. OSHA requires us to do this, and it's like a state mandate. The state has mandates, but they don't fund them.
Mm-hmm.
OSHA gives you, for instance, our turnout gear now has to be rotated out every 10 years. Well, we have 110 firefighters, and turnout gear costs about $5,000 a set.
Wow.
So now you have to factor that in, and with the budget tight, that's just one item. Scott air packs have to be attested and rotated out. All these things that you're required to do by OSHA are cost driven. And the costs, they don't go down, and I mean, I understand OSHA is there to protect the firefighters and every working person in this country. But sometimes you just wonder, my God, where are we going to find the money for this?
Well, yeah, exactly.
Plus, you're maintaining buildings, and the newest building is almost 45 years old, so the buildings are older buildings too. Have five buildings, including the fire tower on Cottage Street.
Right, and they've all had work done because age. It's not like these things are being abused, but they're old and they weren't really necessarily built to support the types of trucks and equipment that are in there. Is that
the only one that has a basement is the Storms.
Okay,
and that's where we had to if you remember, some floor work last year.
Right, that's
$160 to re-strengthen the floor because the floor wouldn't hold the weight of the trucks today.
It was about to. It could.
And Sony had a similar so one of their houses had they had to do repairs for pretty much the same reason.
Yeah, Webster Hose, I think. On
Yeah,
Main
yeah,
Street.
yeah.
So why did you want to be a fire commissioner?
Well, actually,
Or was there somebody?
no.
They said, look, you gotta do
you're
this.
fired.
There was an election. The mayor and Mayor Delgado ran against, Tony Safiri.
Right. Yeah.
And the mayor, of course, appoints the fire commissioner. He appoints a public works director, police commissioners as well. And I just voted him my choice. And I was home. I was working one day, and I got a phone call from Henry Domrad, and said, "Would you like to be fire commissioner?" I said, "What? Me? What? Well, the mayor would like you to consider it," and I did, and check with my wife first, make sure it's okay. And I said, "Sure, I'll give it a try." I mean, I know very good friend of mine, Kelly Curtis, was the commissioner. And he was the commissioner for 8 years under Tony Safiri. And he belongs to my fire company, Hotchkiss Hose. And I didn't know if it would be, and I kind of felt a little bad about that because he had done the job for 8 years. I thought he was doing a great job. And I think my second phone call was to him. I said, "Hey, Kel, they asked me to be fire commissioner, but he said, oh, it's good, go ahead and do it. Go ahead and take it." So, but you take the place of one of your friends. It's just a little feeling that, you don't like to do that, but I enjoy it.
You got his blessing, and if he had said otherwise, you probably wouldn't have.
If he had said,
taken it,
I still rely on him, Kelly. I mean, I said, "Kelly, you did this job for 8 years. What pills do you take?"
Right? Yeah.
But no, he's a good guy. His father was fire commissioner. His father was fire chief of the Curtises. Everybody knew Chubby Curtis in Derby. That was his dad. And we still talk about it all the time and what he would do. And I asked him, "Kel, what do you think I should do with this?" And I always get outstanding advice. He's a good man, Kelly Curtis.
And then I concur. He's nice to me, which I appreciate. He's always been very fair. Coming up, you have a new chief coming. What is that? January 2nd.
January 2nd, right? January 2nd. We're swearing in. It's called promotion of rank. We're swearing in 4 new fire chiefs and our chaplain, Father Tiano from St. Mary's. We have a department chaplain now for the entire department, Father Tiano.
And that's sort of a new development. That was just in November or so that you announced that was happening?
Right. I had met Father Tiano at the St. Mary's Festival, and I said, "Would you like to be the fire department chaplain?" Some firehouses have their own chaplain. We have a department chaplain.
Oh, gotcha. All right.
And so he said, "Yeah." So we're gonna. He said, "Sure." And matter of fact, his brother, how small Derby is, he's from Derby. His brother was my best man at my wedding.
Oh, no kidding. Okay.
Small town.
And he's from Hawthorne.
He also lived on Hawthorne Avenue.
Yeah, his parents lived right at the corner of East Street and Hawthorne, I had learned, just like within the past year. That's fascinating. And so, all right, let's talk about this crew you have coming in, this group of new fire chiefs and first assistant chiefs. And just for the record, this ceremony is going to take place Monday, January 2nd, 7 p.m., Hotchkiss Hose Company on David Humphreys Road. It's really this is one of those things. I haven't covered it every year, but I've probably been there 2 or 3 times since 2009, and it's just a great thing to see. The families come out. There's just a lot of respect on display there. It's really cool. You got this guy David Leonard in there as second assistant chief, though. How is that? How is that happening? I mean,
his brother was a fire chief a little while back, Tom Leonard Jr.
Right,
David is a go-getter. He's an outstanding fire chief.
Big Star Wars fan.
Oh, anyway, yes, he is. Yeah.
So, all right. So you have the new chief's going to be Michael Goodman. Tell me about the incoming
Mike
chief.
Goodman's a carpenter. He belongs to the Pegasset Hook and Ladder Company, and he'll be the new chief for 2 years. They serve a total of 8 years.
Okay.
There's 4 firehouses, and each firehouse has 1 chief, which we test for. I think Derby's one of the few towns in the valley actually test for their chief.
Oh, really?
And yes, and the highest score wins for the chief. It was very good competition. In this case, it was Kurt Kemmis is the current chief until January 2nd. He's from Hotchkiss Hose. His time is up, so he finally, after 8 years, gets a break.
He's been chief for how long?
Well, they serve.
Oh, that's right. They come with their first assistants, and they
serve for 8 years, 2 years in each term. Third assistant, second assistant, first assistant, and then chief.
And what's your assessment of how Kurt's done? I'm not saying his last name, not that we're familiar, but I'll mispronounce it.
Kurt Kemmis Jr.
Kemmis Jr., yeah.
He did a
well-known family.
He did
in
a
Derby.
great job. He did a great job, yeah. He did a great job, and we're going to miss him. But it's the end, and it has, it's like term limits, so
right,
to
it
speak.
just cycles through.
And you know what? And we're fortunate to have people behind him that are good or maybe even better.
And then let's go through the rest of the list. It's going to be Chief Goodman, Michael W. Goodman, and then the first assistant chief is going to be Robert J. Liskowski Jr. Am I saying that name correctly?
Yes, he's from the East End Hose.
And then
He actually is an airplane pilot.
oh, okay, all right.
He
I've
flies
talked to him.
jets out of Oxford Airport. Yes.
Oh, wow, that's fascinating. So there's a guy that's calm under pressure. And then you have the aforementioned Dave Leonard.
The legendary.
Dave
Leonard,
Star Wars
yeah.
fan. And he has a podcast of his own where he's doing for a while about Disney. He's a Disney freak. Disney, the theme park, I mean. And then I'm going to mispronounce, I know who this is, and I'm going to mispronounce his last name, Michael F.
Glody.
Glody. Okay, I would have
Mike
said
Glody.
Glode.
Glody. He's an accountant, works down in Stanford, I believe, and he's belongs to the Hotchkiss Hose. So Kurt Kemmis, who was the Hotchkiss Hose, he's out. So the Hotchkiss Hose now goes back to FD3, and eventually will work their way up to the top.
And one thing that's at least from a reporter's perspective, when we opened up shop here in the Naugatuck Valley, I had worked other places in New York and other parts of Connecticut, and a lot of times, a reporter, being a member of the media these days is you're basically like infested with bed bugs, stink bugs. It's like you're walking around with head lice. You're like a kid with lice when you show up at fire scenes. Sometimes they're like nobody wants to talk to you, except there's something different, especially in Ansonia and Derby, where I know each one of these guys just from going to the scenes and being like, oh yeah, that, and just seeing the names on their jacket, and they're always, you're respectful to them, and then they're respectful to you. Derby seems to have a different view towards at least like transparency and reporters and talking to the public and the press. Do you concur, and why do you think that is? Why does Derby seem to be more open than other places?
At a fire scene when there's just fire going on, working with the press and that.
That's what I mean. It's specifically,
we do have. I did appoint somebody it's called the public information officer, Linda Goodman, who is the chief's sister.
Oh, okay.
All right, but she's also had some experience. She works in town of Stratford. She has some experience with newspaper stuff and publications, and she did journalism at Southern Connecticut. But she would handle non-fire related things to go on. She would get that out for us. And but I always, the chiefs are very outgoing. They understand what your role is. Your role is to report the news, and people in town should know what they're doing. The firemen are doing, as we saw on the fire on Caroline Street.
Caroline,
recently, yeah. And I've never told them to be open to the press. That's the way they are. They work with you because. The fire department should be responsive to the public, and the public should know what we're doing.
Yeah, somebody, another firefighter a while ago in one of the other towns asked me for like a list of, what are some things that would make your job easier? And you've hit it where it's, as when a reporter comes to a fire scene, we're just representing the public. We don't necessarily want to be there. It's just that our job is to just relay I look at ourselves, we're just a member of the public. Which sometimes is getting lost in sort of the national conversation about how the
I wonder
media's
if,
imploding.
at least locally, part of it is like the legacy of Ed Cotter, because like he had that role. He was like involved with emergency services, but also a photographer for the Evening Sentinel. So they're obviously like a revered figure in recent Valley history, and I don't know if that like you said, it seems that like at like Valley scenes, the people are more sort of
responsive, and relaxed. So if you look back over your fire career in Derby, are there any memorable calls or incidents that sort of stick out in your mind?
Well, we had the BF Goodrich fire in Shelton in 1975, March 1st. That was the entire valley came to that. More than the valley actually came to that. The Hull Dye factory, twice I think, burned down on Roosevelt Drive. And but there's lots of fires. I do go to fires occasionally if it's a structure fire. Basically, just to buy coffee.
Right, the last one, that's literally what I saw you there.
There are smart firefighters, so I like to stay out of their way because they know exactly what they're doing. But we average about 30 to 35 calls a month. Car accidents, gas odors, fires, brush fires, whatever it may be. So you don't think you go that many fires, but and motor vehicle accidents and things like that. So nothing really stands up besides those two major events, and of course the River Restaurant explosion that we had in Derby there. And but there have been big fires, but luckily, we've lost a few firemen in the time. Not actually at the fire scene. They had some medical problems after that. So, but We had one fireman die in 1973, I believe, on the way to a false alarm.
Oh wow. Okay,
And that's from my fire company, a fellow named Tom Kingston. And that's why we were discussing now the box system in Derby, the firebox system. My fire marshal, Phil Hawks, tells me that we haven't had an actual fire reported through that system in 20 years.
It's just
Wow.
kids pulling fire alarms.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, and 38% of the time, 34% of the time that we roll to a box alarm. That's a false alarm.
It's just wow.
So we have guys-
malicious pulls.
Yeah, you hear
where
that
they
on the
call them,
scanner,
right?
the
Yeah.
malicious pull. Yeah.
I mean, if you call in 911, they have your phone number, obviously. But so you're getting our firemen out. We're rolling trucks out the door about a third of the time to false alarms.
So what do you think? So there's discussion of possibly removing the boxes. 'Cause
It's a system that is not being fully utilized. It's antiquated, but it's functioning. It works. So people shouldn't think it doesn't work. But you have to look at the overall. Is it?
what are you getting out of it? Yeah.
Well, it doesn't
yeah.
cost as much. It's operating, and we have two good people that run it, Bill Freiheit and Paul Lushak. But the day might come where you might have to say, listen, it's really outlived its usefulness, because everybody has cell phones now.
Right. Yeah. You just call it.
And again, you go by the records. It's 20 years and no calls came through that system. Do you really need that system?
and
When you
would
hear like on the news, they say like 5-alarm fire, 6-alarm fire. Could you explain that to like
Well, the
idiots like me?
dispatcher
Is that just like the number of additional departments that
Right.
get called
Yeah.
to? Okay.
Yeah, they'll call.
I've
The
always wondered
dispatcher
that.
will summon more people.
Okay.
We have running rules, but if you have a big fire, you expand your fire base, and they'll call in more trucks and more trucks. We had 4 towns on Caroline Street, Orange, Seymour, Ansonia, and Derby, and I'm from Shelton. So they all respond, and you stand and you watch all these trucks and all these men working, and nobody's getting paid. It's just it
Yeah.
amazes
Yeah, that's
me.
the other
It
thing.
is.
Like every
Yeah.
time
Amazes me.
we like Shelton, Ansonia, any of these communities, it amazes me, frankly, that at some point when they were industrial powerhouses, they didn't have like a professional fire department brought in, and then like that. I don't know what in Derby is, but it's millions of dollars that's saved every year by having volunteers do all of this.
Yeah,
and
and thank God they keep joining. I mean, younger kids keep coming.
yeah, that's another.
And that's what I wanted to ask you. Like, how are you in terms of resources, in terms of just strict men and women power? It seems like the Derby department always has people coming in.
Yep. I mean, you have ups and downs. You have some time where you won't get any new members for a couple of years, 4 years. But we're fortunate. I see in my own firehouse, I see we have maybe 7 or 8 younger kids under the age of 24. And they're the go-getters now. They're the ones that got the time and the energy, and they actually enjoy washing the fire truck. But we're fortunate that they keep coming and they keep joining. And if one, like in my case, I spoke earlier, if my friend joins, so you join. And next thing you know, you got 3 or 4 guys joining because it's a club. It's a club, and you join up, and they just like to do it. I mean, you have kids hanging around there just waiting for a call to come in.
And then in terms of you had talked about firefighters passing and the fact that it's sort of a club, this fraternity of volunteer firefighters in Derby. I mean, Jimmy Butler Jr. passed away
A year ago, February.
which is just share your thoughts on him, if you would.
He was a fire chief, and I was actually in Florida. My wife and I go to Florida for 2 months because we made a promise to ourselves when the kids got married and moved out, and we retired, we would spend the winter 2 months in Florida because both of us we are not skiers. I'll put it that way. So, but when I got a phone call to come back, he had died. He was a chief driver, which each firehouse has what's called a chief driver. He maintains a fire truck.
Okay.
He was meticulous with the Pegasus fire truck, besides being an outstanding firefighter and constantly responding all the time. Jimmy was there all the time. He would maintain those fire trucks. If I got a phone call from Jimmy, said, I need this for the fire truck, it's going to cost this much, I knew he really needed it because he had his hand on that truck, and I really counted on him a lot, as I do all the chief drivers. They maintain. I mean, the fire engine itself is the most expensive piece of equipment the city has. We just bought a truck 3 years ago. 3 years ago, the price was $574,000 for a fire truck. So you have to make sure these things run. Try to get 30 years out of them if you can. And Jimmy was a great guy. His father was a fire chief.
Sure, yeah.
He was fire commissioner too. His father, And so, like I said, if Jimmy Butler Jr. told me something, it was the truth, and I know we needed it. And he was a very, very good guy.
Yeah, it was just so sad. Just so, obviously sudden,
50 years old, I think he was. Yeah,
young guy.
Yeah. And I know he had some medical problems a year earlier, but he was back. He had got a clearance. He had his medical clearance. He was ready to go. And like I said, it was just a terrible.
Just
terrible
one of those
thing.
things. Yeah.
I just imagine driving a $500,000, like you drive like your parents' nice car, and like you're very nervous, like a $500,000 and something that's so big, like
Well, the ladder truck, to replace it today, would be $104 million, $1.4 million. Wow. And it's 82,000 pounds. This truck. And you know how small Derby streets can
Well,
be.
that's what I was just going to say. And then in the wintertime, you got
Don't
cars.
send that down Caroline.
Cars parked on both sides of the street. I would just drive. I would be crashing every day if that was me. But I wanted to ask you if you were willing. Like you mentioned, you have 2 children.
Three
I'm
children.
sorry.
3 children.
What are their names and ages?
The oldest is Brenna. She's 34. The middle one is Katie. She's 28, and Sean is 27.
And where'd they go to school when they were younger?
All Derby school system. Bradley School, Derby Middle School, and Derby High School.
And then what are they doing now? What are their...
Well, my oldest daughter has gotten her PhD, and she teaches at University of Connecticut. She teaches history and political science.
Nice.
My other daughter, Katie, graduated from Southern Connecticut as an athletic trainer, and she got a job at a high school, Litchfield High School, for about a year. Then she was volunteering at Derby High School, assistant trainer at Derby High School, because that's where she went to school. She liked it. And then now she works for Orthopedic Specialty Group in Fairfield. She works there. And my son went to Quinnipiac, got his master's from William & Mary, and he works for a company actually based in Alexandria, Virginia, and he's subcontracted to NASA. He works for, so you could say he works for NASA, I guess you could say.
So now are you all getting together? Because this is right before Christmas. I know, that's why I want to ask. Yeah, he's got, there's like this, there's genius genes in the,
No,
in the
it's
Keller.
It's like the Royal Tenenbaums.
Right, yeah, that's
Except
They have
like
my
minus
wife's
the,
wife's
weird whatever. Good movie.
So you're all getting together the next couple of days for...
Well, my daughter, of course, Katie got married in October. She lives right around the corner on Marshall Lane.
Oh, congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. The house is empty, empty nesters now. And then my older daughter is coming down. She lives in Glastonbury. And, of course, my son's going to train back tomorrow night. He'll be here about 9 o'clock tomorrow night from Virginia.
That's nice. So, like, I have 2 young ones. Do you have any advice for me? Like, how did you manage to get 3 well-adjusted, successful...
Well, we were... my wife was very involved with the school system. Every PTA she served on. You support them. And I realized that you don't want to push them too much in one direction. They're going to find themselves. They'll find themselves what they want to be. And I wish they were closer to home, all of them, but... they have to go where what they feel happiest doing.
And were they involved in the fire department at all growing up? Or
my oldest daughter was involved in the auxiliary program, and we had an explorer post. But then, of course, once you go to college, you're living at college now, and you're away. And she got her master's at Seton Hall, so she was in New Jersey for 2 years. Then she came back and went to UConn. And after she backpacked, before she backpacked across Europe for 7 weeks.
Wow.
Nice.
But then, of course, my daughter Katie's still involved. Matter of fact, she helps out with we call her the assistant commissioner when I'm gone. She kind of watches over the fire department and watches the spending that we do. And, of course, my son didn't show much interest in the fire department. He liked karate. And, of course, like I said, he went to Quinnipiac, spent 2 semesters in Ireland while at Quinnipiac. And then, of course, he left from Quinnipiac. He came right back and went to William & Mary. And then he was here for about a year. He was working with Rick Dunn.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
Okay.
When
We know that guy.
Rick Dunn's a very good
Naugatuck
friend of mine.
Valley Council of Governments.
Yeah, I used to coach Rick Dunn in biddy basketball.
Oh, really?
A long time ago. But when the cogs combined,
Was he a chucker?
Oh, he could throw. He could run. I don't know if he can run now, but he could run then.
Oh.
He's still in good shape. I don't know how he does it. He's like one of those...
So Sean came back from William & Mary. Rick hired him to combine because his major was in public policy. And so he basically helped write the new bylaws for the new COG, because they combined the Waterbury COG and the Valley
Sure,
COG.
yeah.
And then he got a call from down in D.C., and he went for the interview, and he got the job down there.
That's fascinating. So good for you. Proud parent.
Oh, yeah. They're all doing well, too.
That's
Doing very
awesome.
well. I got a grandson, too.
Oh, all right. Let's talk about the
You
grandson.
have a W and M hat here. I was wondering, but it must be William and Mary.
William and
I
Mary, yeah.
made
William
that brilliant deduction just now.
See, we're reporters. What's your grandson? Did you say, or granddaughter?
Brenda has a son named Dominic.
Dominic. How old?
2.5 years old.
Oh, wow. So
And he loves fire trucks. Matter of fact, my son-in-law, Katie's husband, my youngest daughter, is a captain at Pegasus.
okay.
So when he's down here, I take him to the firehouse, and of course I own an antique fire truck, and he wants to drive it and ring the siren and ring the bell.
Oh, that's awesome. So this is grandson. This is your as of right now. So this kid's got to be spoiled beyond belief
yeah.
by the.
The fire truck will come by with Santa Claus, and he could care less about Santa Claus. He wants to go see the fire truck.
He's just
He'll
giving the
walk
truck.
right by Santa Claus, right to the fire truck.
That's awesome. So before we wrap it up, there's a couple other things I wanted to ask you about because we'd started this podcast saying that there were these story opportunities that you would send me, which I then. Come on, Ethan. What do you got your phone going for?
Sorry.
This is the radio. We're on WNHH in New
Mute the
Haven.
computer.
Can't take you
know,
anywhere.
The computer rings. In addition, I had my phone on silent, but now the computer rings too.
But the department had done some activity or some outreach regarding smoke detectors.
Yes.
That you did. Tell me about that. What was that?
Well, Kitty, I pronounce it Kitty, Channel 8, Home Depot, have a thing every year in the Haven Fire School where they will pass out 5,000 smoke detectors and CO2 alarms to people in the valley, to fire departments from Connecticut. And we partook 2 years in a row. And what you do, you go down there, you sign up. They give you about 60 or 70 of them. And then we open the firehouses up on certain days, and we pass them out to anybody that wants them. Smoke detectors, but they're all for free. And they have a 10-year battery, which is very good.
Oh, wow, yeah.
And if they don't, if somebody elderly can't install it, we'll go install it for them. And that's how we did that. But the Home Depot was very involved in that, and along with Channel 8 and Kitty. We also passed out to the Senior Center in Derby this year 30 flashing light bulbs.
Now, what is that? Yeah, tell me about that.
What they are is it's a regular light bulb, indoor, outdoor light bulb, and if it operates like a regular light bulb when you turn the switch on or off. But if you turn the switch twice quickly, it'll flash. So you put it in the window of your house, and you turn the light switch on, and it'll keep flashing so the police or fire or ambulance can find your house just a little faster. Because most folks, it's hard to read the number on the house,
Yeah.
especially at night.
If there is a number,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's something
Yeah.
you don't think of just in day to day, but
Yeah.
you should.
I mean, you like to see a big reflective number, but sometimes they're not good-looking numbers. They're ugly-looking things. But so these light bulbs can go on the porch, or they can go in the front in the living room or in the big window, and just hit the switch twice, and it'll flash for 45 minutes, and then hit the switch once, and it's off.
Oh, that's fascinating. I had no idea.
So we're going to buy those every year for the seniors. We're going to buy those every year, and they pass them out to the Senior Center in Derby.
Nice. All right. I want to thank you for taking the time and coming in here. I really do. Because
Well, I appreciate you asking
it was
me.
really a pleasure talking to you because I don't know, you're just one of those guys that has like instant respect in the city of Derby. People just love it. I don't know if you know that or not, but yeah, you have a pretty good reputation.
yeah, and like
Better than Ethan.
well, not very hard. But like as I said before, it's just the savings people get having all these volunteer fire departments, like without realizing it. Basically, it's we all take it for granted. Basically.
And then and it's even when you're in trouble, they show up. But then all the other things that we were just talking about, all the basic community service and good stuff that goes on even behind.
Oh yeah, and
behind
then
the
like
scenes.
there's like as you said, there's 35 calls a month, and like you might hear about a couple of them that are an actual fire or whatever, but you still have to go out and be like, oh, there's no fire. Okay, let's check X, Y, and Z. That's not a story, but it's still important.
And I'm really proud, if I could just finish with this.
Yeah,
I'm
go
really
right
proud
ahead.
of the fact we get all this done with less than 1% of the city budget. Less than 1% of our budget. Matter of fact, I did a presentation to the tax board. Our budget this year is $3,000 less than it was 20 years ago.
That's amazing. How have you managed that?
We have some magicians that manage to get the best out of every drop out of that lemon we can get. We squeeze it, but I mean it's $3,000 less than it was 20 years ago.
How long is the commissioner's term in Derby?
It runs with the mayor's term.
Okay. Do you have any in the next year? Because we have an election coming up, I guess. Do you have any goals or things you want to get accomplished in, say, the next year?
Well, I want to be up to date with OSHA, which we are, but I want to stay ahead of the curve with OSHA. Make sure that my first thing is safety of the firefighters. That's my goal. Make sure they're safe. I mean, they don't get a salary, they don't get anything. They want to be safe, and they want insurance should they pass on for their families. Not a lot to ask. So you buy them the right equipment, and you make sure they have insurance in case they get hurt. And I want to make sure we got that, and some building maintenance issues I want to take care of. But it's a never-ending job, like a marriage job. Marriage comes in no matter who the mayor is. There's always problems you got to work out. So I mean, Mr. Curtis before me took care of a lot of them. I'm trying to take care of some of them, and the next commissioner, whoever that may be, there'll be some more problems, but they'll get it done. Well, we've been Oscar's Hose is 180 years old next year.
Wow.
So we've been the fire department has been getting it done for 180 years.
It somehow manages to make it happen.
We make it happen. We make it work. We make it work.
You know, I said we would wrap up, but I just realized there's one other area I just wanted to ask you about was your time on the board of aldermen. Because I was thinking at some point in the interview, and you had talked about bringing coffee to fire scenes, which is that's a natural politician thing to do right there. That's going to be he's automatically the most popular guy when he shows up, and I'm just wondering.
I don't bring steaks and lobster, but I do bring coffee and donuts.
What was it like? Where or not where? But when did you serve on the board of aldermen?
Well,
and was it third ward?
Third ward alderman.
Gotcha.
I was a third ward alderman. Ran for mayor once, and that was unsuccessful, which is probably a good thing in the end.
Oh wow! So what year was that? Like when roughly when was that? I didn't know that.
2003.
Okay, so we launched in 2009. So everything.
2003. I served under three mayors: John D. Barberi, who's Republican; Alan Schlesinger, who of course was Republican; and Mark Garofalo, who's a Democrat. And I got along with all three of them. Yeah.
What were the toughest issues you dealt with as an alderman? What were some of the things you wrestled with at all, or what's it like being an alderman? I guess.
Well, the alderman is responsible for the ward and the town itself. But I mean, the issues that we had then are the same issues we have now: a shrinking grand list, and quality of life in the town. And we're 5.2 square miles. We're not blessed with a lot of land, and a lot of it is, I think a fifth of it is state park or open space, which we can't use that, and you wouldn't want to because you want to keep that as it is. But it's trying to make it happen with a community that the taxpayers are hurting, obviously, because they're paying we have no industry, large industry like Shelton does. They have all that, all those high rises down there and everything else. So it's like the fire department. It's trying to make it happen in a small community. We're trying to. One of the things we should do is more regionalization. Even if the fire department, if I'm buying fire coats for my guys, why can't we and Sony and Derby Shelton buy them together? Probably get a better price. Regionalize your purchases and things like that. But
is that starting to happen in any way?
We're looking into doing that. Yes. Again, try to get more out of what we have already. But the aldermen are facing the same problems that we had when I was on the board. Downtown development.
It's like, how do you reinvent yourself? Because I mean, that's really
what
it is.
Regionalization is like that's a watchword that like everybody we seem to be hearing it more and more and more, and will in the future. But like emergency services, that's a field where there is already, I think, a lot of if not capital R regionalization. Like they work very well together in terms of like mutual aid systems, and whenever there's a big incident, like the police will move pretty fluidly, like different towns and stuff. Mm-hmm. So you do see that to some extent starting already.
What I'm thinking about though, then in regionalization, there's so much. It's so hard to. I'm thinking about like when they talked about consolidating some of the fire houses in Ansonia. How that's difficult to do because there's so much literal history.
And and as you said, it's like that's in terms of like recruitment, having those individual houses all around the city is important because, as the commissioner said, the social aspect is obviously like
it's a
big
fabric
part
of the community.
So
are you closing houses? Are you going to close some firehouses in Derby? Is that what you're announcing?
No, I hope not. No, not at all.
Would you ever run for alderman again?
No. My time in politics.
That was a very quick no.
My time in politics is all over now. I'm retired now, and my time was there, and now it's other people's time, and so they all do a good job. So no more politics for me. If my wife told me if I ever did again, I better get a lawyer. She draw the line there.
That's it. Yeah. That's a tough thing to do, to put yourself out there publicly, and you're literally being judged all the time. I guess you have to have thick skin.
You don't often get a phone call saying, "Hey, great job." Usually it's a problem, but people still do it. Like the fire department, they still want to run and they still want to serve. So we're lucky to have them. We're lucky to have all of them.
All right, Commissioner Kelleher. Now we're really going to end it. I apologize. I said 15 minutes ago we were going to. Again, I really appreciate your time and for stopping by.
Well, thank you, and you fellas, and all the people on listening, have a good holiday.
Exactly. Oh, that's right. This will be our last one. Yeah. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays, everybody.
Hope Santa Claus is good to everybody.
Yeah, me too. All right, I'm Eugene Driscoll for Ethan Fry and Commissioner Michael Kelleher of Derby, saying, I guess we'll see you in the new year.